to update you on the seedlings that I sowed. I sowed some seeds. The Swiss chard Bright Lights from Johnny's is doing fantastic, and the bok choy is doing fantastic. That's from Fairy Morris. Now the Arctic King, I'm not sure what happened. Nothing came up. It could be that the seeds were kind of old. I'm not sure how long the lettuce seeds last. They are pretty tiny. The calendula seeds did not pop up either. I have here a amaranth and a hollyhock, but I don't see any of the calendula from 2020. And over here I have a lot of tatsoi, and see how productive they are? I mean, the plant's a seedling just like the others, but the bok choy and the tatsoi make so much food, so many leaves. And I knew this was going to happen. The garlic chives did not come up. Now the seeds are about a year or two old, so maybe that's why they don't last very long. These Chinese leeks and chives from Fairy Morris didn't come up either, so that's kind of concerning, because I love to have onions and everything from the onion family, and those are the hard ones to grow for me, other than from onion sets. So here's the rhubarb chard, and I sowed these about a week and a half after sowing the tatsoi and bok choy. So rhubarb chard doing really good. Pretty good germination rate. So I know chard is really reliable. The seeds are a couple years old, and they're still making plants. I think they're more than that. I bought them in 2018. And when they grow, they just make lots and lots of leaves, and they survive the cold winters and even some pretty hot summers, as long as it gets a little bit of shade. My bouquet dill is looking so cute. Same thing over here. Tokyo bunching onion did not pop up. There's a hollyhock, and I'm not sure what these guys are. And the Chinese chives, Johnny seeds, did not pop up either over here. This is an already grown Thai basil. Chinese leeks did not come up. Tokyo bunching onions did not come up. But over here, the Chinese leeks, I've got little greens right there. I'm not sure what they are, but the rest of the pot's pretty empty, which is frustrating. And over here I have the Bloomsdale spinach. Only 2 popped up. I sowed several seeds in here, quite a few actually. And over here I had the giant noble spinach, and only 1 came up for the longest time, and today I see this tiny little one here. And so I'll give it more time, because over here it looks like something else is popping up, unless it's just the perlite turning green. I have a suspicion that I had burnt or baked the seedlings when I had the cover on it, and it was like the upper 80s and 90s a week ago or two. And I'm hoping that the other seedlings will pop up. If not, I'll add some more seeds to this bed, this little tray. Also, I don't know if I'm watering them too much, but because these trays are really shallow, I'm afraid of the seedlings drying out, because that's the #1 killer of seedlings, when they dry out. This is going to be a new tray that I'm going to sow seeds in. And then I have these, the 72 cell Jiffy seed starter. And so that whole tray right there is Long Island Brussels sprouts. So those are doing pretty well. Kohlrabi over here, only 2 plants. And then over there I've got bouquet dill, and only looks like 2 are popping up for that, but I'll give it more time yet. And these are so small that I'm afraid they dry out too, so I water them a lot. Over here I have you know what, I forgot to label these. Guys, it's really important to label. I forgot what I sowed in these 2 containers, but something's popping up. I just don't remember what it was at all. And then over here, I'm gonna sow some more seedlings because I'm gonna try to sow something every week or every other week so that I have a constant supply of greens. The days are getting shorter and there's less sunlight, and I'm hoping to get a few more crops from some of my plants. So I still have some flowers on my eggplant, some baby plants. Not sure if because the days are shorter or the summer heat is waning, but these tomatoes are taking a bazillion years to turn yellow. They've been green forever. This will probably be my last big eggplant that I harvest from this vine, because even though I have these smaller ones, it's so tiny. I mean, I guess I can put it in my soup and I just have to cut them real small. It's still making little flowers. But this one's the one that took a long time to start making leaves and then making little blooms and climbing up. So it's a later season crop, but you do have to start the seeds early or else you won't get the fruit later on because it took a long time. Oh, here's a third little one. So I have a big one and 3 little ones. Wow. I have plenty of herbs in here still. This Korean or African basil is so tall. It is about 3 feet tall, 3.5 feet tall. But it's starting to lose its lower leaves because it's getting cold. And I've been plucking all the blooms off of it and throwing the blooms into the tomatoes to confuse tomato hornworms. And over here I have a new tomato that popped up, but it's probably not going to make me any food, but it's okay. I'll just use the leaves to kind of keep my garden here nice and warm. And here's a pineapple sage and another pineapple sage that I propagated. So I kind of go around plucking different plants and propagating it elsewhere, so I have several spare plants of everything, so I don't lose the one plant if I only have one plant. And Tomato Alley is looking fantastic and lush and getting taller still and bushier, but still I see some flowers but never any fruit. So I started it a little bit late this year, so I don't really think I'm going to get anything, especially these being the large variety of tomatoes. It has to make the tomato from the flower, and then it has to develop and turn red. And I only have the rest of October, and I'm pretty sure November is going to be too cool, and the days are so short that I really only have October. There definitely is struggling with gardening because for some reason I had spider mites earlier in the season. I took care of that problem, but this plant is just getting really leggy and producing suboptimal peppers. So I'm definitely going to cut it down and see if it'll overwinter. But if it produces really bad peppers next year, I'm just going to pull it out. Another challenge is that I recently discovered a new variety of pest. So I have these little black flies. They call them black flies, I think, according to Jessie from Plot 37. But I never had these before, and I had grown nasturtium earlier in the season, and they were all over my nasturtium, and now they're all over my green beans. So frustrating. And what happens is the ants, they mine the black flies, they protect them, because the black flies produce like a sticky, sweet mess that the ants like. So they kind of protect them, which is really annoying because it's affecting my green beans and possibly my nasturtium and my green beans so far. So even with the cage protecting my radishes, something came in and kind of dug over here, and I just kind of pushed the soil back, the mulch. I do have some radishes growing, if you can see the little green specks. So hopefully it didn't destroy too many. Maybe it destroyed a row of radishes. And here I have some kind of melon, or I have no idea, maybe a squash, and it didn't grow all season long, and suddenly it decided to grow about a month ago or a month and a half ago, and now it's making flowers. So it's pretty late for this guy. I don't know what it is at all. I forgot what I planted here. So my rose bush has suffered throughout the summer season. The leaves got really dry and burnt, but now it's making new leaves and new blooms, so that's really exciting. But I really got to trim this tree down this winter, this rose bush, and but I don't know if I have the heart to, because it's now blooming. I guess I have to wait till this blooming season's over. So it's making new buds, new leaves, so I'm not sure what I'll do. But I do know that in the winter time it's best to cut it down to the near the ground, and it'll come up with new branches. So this area had a few things that I started in the ground. I had a rose, some canna, a volunteer avocado. They were growing here amongst some weeds. They were here before the weeds. So I pulled out the plants that I wanted and I put them in pots, and then I'm laying cardboard down to keep the weeds down. And then I'm gonna dig up this aloe, stick it in a pot, pull up all these sweet potato leaves, and also dig up the sweet potatoes to eat. And I'm gonna clear out this whole section here. I may or may not transplant these trees out. That looks like a stone fruit right there next to a loquat. The loquat was suffering because of the heat earlier. The 108-degree days, 110. So at least one sweet pea is coming up. And I put all this canna around this area to protect my sweet peas and my snap peas and my snow peas. But something was digging around that area, and so I have fewer crops than I expected. These are protected pretty well. I gotta sow more of the same seeds in here because I want to have a bigger harvest than just a couple plants. Now, I guess these did bloom, but they didn't open up really very much, so I'm gonna deadhead these and see if they'll give me another bloom. And they'll also provide some flowers for the bees, some nectar. Again, that's what I do. I go around trying to propagate the plants that I already have, so I have spares in case one dies, the mother plant dies. And also here I have pineapple sage that I propagated from the mother plant elsewhere, and I could also give them away to my family and friends. The flowers are so sweet. It has a nectar in it. I have some basil that looks like it's suffering because it's getting colder. Here's a nice Thai basil. I got that from my mom's. This is the Korean basil, or the African basil. And this is the Genovese basil. Looks pretty good. Tons and tons of tulsi. And I gotta stake up these tomatoes. They never gave me any fruit. I should just pull them out. It's quite upsetting that I wasted so much water on them. So these little blossoms from the tulsi, you could throw them in the chicken coop to freshen up the coop scent, or just throw them into your tea, your hot water, and have some tea with it. It's very fragrant. So good. Or you can throw it towards your tomato plants to confuse the tomato hornworms so they don't come along and eat all your tomato plants. But since the tomato plants aren't really producing for me, other than a few little tiny orange pear-shaped, yellow pear-shaped tomatoes, I haven't really gotten those big tomatoes. Mr. Stripey did produce two tomatoes for me, which I ate. They're delicious. Here are the tulsi flowers, and I'm just gonna throw them in the coop, and it'll smell really good. I really do strive for ways to naturally deodorize and keep pests away, and use things for multi-purpose reasons. So like, I can have this as tea, I can use it to freshen up the coop, and I can confuse the tomato hornworms. So it's just really nice to have a lot of variety of things, and they serve several purposes. So that's a stacking function. And over here I'm gonna have to clean up this bed. It was that big boy tomato hybrid. It produced plenty of foliage, but never any fruit. It produced 4 tomatoes, which raccoon or possum ate, so that was quite upsetting. And now it's withered away, which is fine. It didn't produce me anything after the 4. So the stone fruit that volunteered itself in that area that I plucked, that I transplanted it from, the canna, the volunteer avocado I was talking about, the rose that I propagated, it's a yellow rose. Here's another rose. I'm not sure what color this one will be. I think it's also the yellow rose, which I only have one on this property, so I wanted to make sure that if the mother plant dies, that I'll have other yellow roses. I'm still letting this ripen, this Japanese melon. Here's an avocado. It's gonna go into its, would I say, second or third year. It's small because it's in that little pot. I need to transplant it out. The mum looks like it's ready to bloom. I forget if this is the purple one or the yellow one. Another rose. I might harvest that soon before something gets to it, but it doesn't look ready. It's apples from which variety? I think it's a Fuji apples. The society garlic looks pretty good. It's a pretty low maintenance plant, and you can use it to plant around other plants like tomatoes and stuff, and the scent will definitely confuse pests, and it grows really well, low maintenance, low water requirements, and it's edible. You can cut this and use it kind of like chives, cook it with omelets, etc. I'm still waiting. These pineapple guava are getting larger and larger. It's kind of different because early in the season it bloomed and it made fruit, and then later in the season it made another set of blooms and made smaller fruit. So obviously when it comes to harvesting, I'm going to have to harvest the large ones, like this huge one there and that one there. So earlier in the season, about 2 months ago, I tried to eat one of these, and you really have to touch them and feel if they're soft to eat them, because when they're hard, I just wanted to see how they tasted. It was definitely not ready. That's the feijoa. And I am well on my way to having a jungle because I threw some papaya seeds in here, and look at how tall this is. I didn't want to mention it all summer long because I always jinx myself when I mention something and they end up dying. So this papaya is doing really well. There are several. There are at least 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 or 9 stalks of papaya next to my kaffir lime and right next to my Asian pear, but that's okay because they're going to grow up taller and provide a canopy for these other fruit. And they don't block too much of the light because as it grows taller, these lower leaves fall off. So they see, it just comes right off and provides you with mulch. Just chop and drop, or touch and drop. My dahlia is having a second bloom. I love it. A lot of these perennials I grew over here and gave them a little bit of a gap between each other, and just kind of trying to keep it in the shade and keep it alive so that it can make the roots for next year. And here are an array of things. My rosemary, some roses in pots. Oh, so I had green onions growing in this planter. And then what I did was I stuck, ooh, I hate these. These are the traveling Jews. They just spread like crazy. I don't even know if they have like tiny seeds or what. I don't know why. They grow so easily everywhere. And I throw these in the garbage. I don't even try to compost them or anything because they're so annoying. I don't know how they pop up all the time. Anyway, so I threw the sugar cane into these two beds right here, and you had seen that they had made roots. Now the shoots are coming up, and at some point I put them in these pots because I haven't yet decided where I want to grow them, haven't decided yet where I want to plant them, because they're going to be tall and I need to strategically put them into the ground, not just anywhere and then have to move it later. My son wanted to have pineapples this year, so we bought a couple pineapples, and I cut them up for him to eat, and so I just kept the tops. And I've grown the pineapple before, but we just kind of got tired of pineapple, so we didn't buy it for a few years. And since we did it, I might as well throw the heads into the dirt. And now it's already growing. This is all new leaves. This is the old leaf right there, the old leaves. So it grows more leaves and grows taller, and then it'll make a fruit. Each pineapple head makes one fruit, but then it'll have little pups of plants that you can divide out. But then it takes a year to have one pineapple fruit from one pineapple plant. I grew one year, and it was about 5 inches or 6 inches tall, but it wasn't as big as the commercial pineapple. And I was letting it ripen, and I should have ripened it when I saw it, because it had turned yellowish and it was quite fragrant. And before I could harvest it, a raccoon or possum got to it, so it's quite difficult to grow a food forest in the middle of the city, because you've got all these city creatures coming to eat up all your plants before you can get to them. Soon I have to harvest all these little Mexican limes. They're supposedly seedless. We cut down parts of this lemon tree, and long before we ever moved in here, somehow it split open in half like that. And anyway, my husband cleaned up the branches, the lower branches, and now we can see our neighbors again. But it has some kind of, the reason why we came in here and cut it up was because we have this paper mulberry that keeps volunteering and spreading everywhere, and my husband pumped in some kind of enzyme that's supposed to help it rot faster, and it doesn't seem to be working because it's already making more leaves, new leaves. So, and he had tried that black stuff, it's some kind of enzyme that he's putting in there to help it rot. And that way, because I said look for something that's gonna kill the paper mulberry but not harm our lemon tree. So as you can see, more of that stuff, and it's growing right next to the lemon tree. It's really frustrating. You can't win practically every time. It's such a struggle to get anything done or to get any harvest, because it's really difficult. So we had cut down a lot of the branches and from the lemon tree and that paper mulberry. It has this mottled appearance here. It grows very easily, and it's actually, when it makes roots, it's really hard to pull the plant, the seedling out. I suspect that it has like an underground, it spreads kind of rhizome-like underground or something. I know mulberries grow very easily. It's hard to kill a mulberry, I believe. So we're gonna have to do something about that, like burn it or something in situ. I'm not sure. So what we did was I hauled a lot of the branches over to the other part of the garden, and we burned a lot of the branches with the lemon tree. and we burn them, and here are the ash, wood ash. And you can't apply that directly to your plants because it'll kill your plants. But like to kill off stuff in the dirt, or like let it, you could bury it and it'll absorb different nutrients from the ground, so that like if you put your worm tea in there, it'll absorb it, and over time it will release it into your soil and make your soil really nutritious. So that's what I'm doing. I'm just kind of throwing it over here where I don't have any plants growing. And it also, I throw some of it into the chicken run because it also deodorizes things. And I threw a little bit into the coop as well. So that's what I do. And just a few weeks ago, I applied mealworm frass to fertilize my plants. So I do various things just to get the soil going and productive faster. And I got some spent coffee grounds from work, and I just kind of spread it everywhere so that I'm adding bulk, variety, and nutrients to my soil. This Citronella citrosa plant, it smells so good. And I had it growing elsewhere. I needed to move it and to make an area for my seedlings. So I moved it here, but I probably need to trim it down. But it smells so fragrant. So this video is getting quite long, and I just wanted to show you the abundance growing here. Some areas look really yucky. It's a work in progress, but other areas look really good and lush and abundant and thriving. So I just wanted to leave you with this view of the garden with all its lushness and productivity. So have a great day. See you in the next one. Please like, subscribe, and share with friends to support my channel as I keep working on the garden to make a productive garden, and you can grow your plants with me. And if you see anything interesting, try to grow it. It doesn't hurt to have variety in your garden.